as time goes on. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third week of the Sherry Box. We are tasting this guy, the tiny guy, Alvear Oloroso Caton, Montella Dio, Spain, is what we're tasting today. In case you're wondering, the Alvear sounds familiar. It's because we featured Alvear before. There are actually two Alvear in this month's box, but yeah, I love their wines, and we'll get into more of that once we get to the producers. But before we get into the wine, just a few announcements. All the invoices for next month went out. So if you are planning on joining us, go ahead and pay that. If you're planning on skipping, just let me know so I can get that all settled. And just in case you're wondering, in case it matters, what next month's theme is, where I am 90 to 95% sure that it's going to be Castilla y León box. So we're going to the very center, like inland of Spain. So, where we are in the southern Spain, we're going to move up a little bit. But yeah, burly reds, really, really kind of a kind of vegetal, but full-bodied whites. The whites are actually what I'm more interested in. But anyways, so I'm pretty sure that's what's going to be. There's some chances that it may switch last minute, but most likely that's what it's going to be. I don't really have any other announcements besides that. So let's get into the wine. In case you're just joining us now, we're tasting this guy, the half bottle, the Alvear Oloroso Caton, Monte Morales is what we're tasting today. All right, let's start with the map. All right. This map should look pretty familiar to a lot of you. So where we are is down here in the south. Andalusia is where we are headed. And for the first week, we are in Jerez, right? Or the Jerez Triangle, or Marco de Jerez. In order for it to technically to be sherry, it has to come from the Sherry Triangle or the province called Jerez around the town of Cadiz or the town of Jerez. Is where we were. But starting from last week and as well this week, where we have moved to, is actually, no, last week we're also in Jerez, but we're in Sanlúcar. Sanlúcar de Barrameda. This is where Manzanilla is made, right? The top corner, right by the Atlantic Ocean. But we're actually going east now in Andalusia, and where we are this week is Montilla Moriles, which is right here. And as you can see, there's a mountain range that comes down from all the way along the coast, essentially, of Spain, and then going all the way come down to the south. It runs the entire length east and the southern coast. And in that mountain range is right here as well. The higher up you go in Montilla Moriles, it's about 45 kilometers south of Cordoba, which is a town right here. It is one of the hottest, most kind of sun-blasted wine regions on earth, growing one of the world's most kind of extraordinary grapes, a very singular grape that grows pretty much here. There's some grown in Argentina, Chile as well, but when we're talking about Montilla Moriles, what we're talking about is Pedro Jimenez, or PX is what we're talking about. If you guys remember back to the Thanksgiving box from last year, I believe, or maybe possibly the year before, I had a little tiny bottle, half bottle of PX sherry from Montilla Moriles, actually from Alvear back then. That lusciously sweet, like that fig, dry fig and raisin in a bottle, that came from here. And then that grape, there's no sugar added. It's all natural sugar that was found in the bottle. And all that is grown is because Pedro Jimenez grape, which is naturally just so high in sugar, and also grow in one of the hottest places in all of Spain, right here in Montilla. Because you're wondering about Cordoba, this is a very historically rich region. I mean, all of Spain, but particularly, all of Andalusia, Jerez as well. But particularly Cordoba is a backdrop to where we are. It's arguably the most important city in medieval European history. Under the Moorish kind of control in the 10th century, Cordoba was the largest and most sophisticated city in Western Europe. Back then, there was a 500,000 inhabitants, 300 mosques, greatest library outside of Baghdad. Uh, this was like from what I've read, is one of the most astonishing buildings. The Mesquita, which is the great mosque, which is now converted to cathedral now, is one of the most astonishing buildings in the world and sits at the center of the city's heart. And then Montilla Morelos, where we're talking about, is literally just south of there. So there's a lot of historical influence here. The viticulture here predates the Romans. So the Phoenicians brought the grapes here. So we're talking about a very, very historical place. The wines have been made here in the plains since before the Romans arrived here. This whole region, like I mentioned, really, really hot. It's the extreme kind of Mediterranean continental. What that means is continental meaning it's really hot in the summertime, bitterly cold in the wintertime. And unlike Jerez, there's no moderating influence that comes from the ocean because it's pretty far inland here, right? So it's the extreme end. It's very dry here. It's not as humid as it is here, but it is also very hot in the summertime. It often gets up to like 104, 113 degrees pretty regularly here. So we're very, very hot. But because it's up in the mountains that runs down here, and it is much more inland and desert kind of an area, very arid area, the diurnal shift here is quite extreme as well. So the nighttime is pretty cool. So even though you have this grape called Pedro Jimenez, who can naturally get up to like 15, 16% in alcohol, they also get cooled down in the wintertime, in the nighttime. So keeping that acidity and keeping it alive and fresh, and which is kind of what makes this area unique. So this town is Malaga, and Sierras de Malaga appears in Montilla Moriles. The Montilla Moriles is also divided into kind of two different areas, two different top zones, Sierra de Montilla and Moriles Alto, both classified basically the Grand Cru, the best sites in all of Montilla Moriles. And Alvear has 125 hectares is how much they grow, and all of that is entirely in either in Sierra de Montilla or Moriles Alto. So all the grapes that we're tasting tonight come from these two kind of a ground cru, quote unquote, ground cru sites of Montilla Moriles, perched high up on the slopes of the mountain that come down here. Again, that's the reason why they're considered the top region is because of the diurnal shift that happens here. The higher it goes, the day and night temperature swings, and then that preserves the kind of aromatic freshness as well as the acidity. But the daytime heat makes the really ripens the grapes, gets the concentration and sugar and all of that. Let's see. Let's talk about the difference between Montilla Moriles and Jerez. So technically speaking, Montilla Moriles DO, which is what this bottle is not sherry. So in order for it to be called sherry, it has to come from Jerez or those areas around Jerez. So technically what we have today is not sherry, but the interesting thing is the winemaking practice, pretty much all the production method is exactly the same. What we're talking about last 2 weeks, right? That's starting off with the pheno. You got to kind of make the base wine, and then you got to decide whether it's going to go the biological, reductive, under the floor aging route, or Oloroso route, which is aged completely oxidatively. And then it goes through the fractional blending, right, through the Solera system. And all of that is exactly the same, whether it's in Montilla Moriles or Jerez. But because you're in Montilla Moriles, it's all here is a Palo Fino. So the difference between these two are one, the varieties. So here in Jerez region, you're talking about Palomino Fino, which is the grape variety that grows here. It's kind of neutral, kind of low sugar, low acid variety. If you were to ferment that on its own as a base wine, it only gets up to like 11.5, maybe 12%. That's why you need to fortify it to get it up to that 14.5, 15.5% for Fino, and then 16.5 and above for Amontillado or Oloroso. But here, because you're using Pedro Jimenez grapes, which is naturally much higher in sugar, and it is able to naturally achieve higher alcohol percentage. So pheno for Montilla Moriles is oftentimes actually not even fortified. It's actually not fortified at all because the the PX is able to get up to that alcohol percentage, which is 15 and a half, like 16 and a half. That's kind of like the, sorry, 14 and a half to 15 and a half is kind of like the ideal alcohol percentage for floor to grow here. And it's because it's naturally able to reach that. It doesn't have to be fortified. So if you ever get phenol from Montilla moriles, there's no brandy, there's no spirit in it. However, if you do get to Amontillado or Oloroso, which is a higher in alcohol, like 17 and a half, 18 and a half, then it does have some spirits added to get up to that percentage. However, there's this argument that, like, maybe Montilla Moriles is a much more truer representation of the terroir or the grapes that grow there, because you are able to use less spirits, because naturally it's able to get up to a much higher percentage than Palofino would be able to in Jerez. So that's kind of the big difference between those two. The history and the irony here is that Montilla Moriles actually predates Jerez area, as modern sherry is defined by the wine style. So it was first made here, and it came here. In fact, last week's wine, Amontillado, right? The word Amontillado, the most famous sherry style, so to speak, is literally means in the style of Montilla, Amontillado. So just to give you an idea of what we consider as sherry, even though Jerez, and then they've done a much better job of marketing it and branding it and saying it that it's like the true kind of expression or unique, singular kind of a wine style from this area, from Jerez. But really, it started here in Montilla Moriles, and they just kind of play the backdrop to Jerez as this, because mostly actually back then all the PX grapes used to be exported and actually brought into Jerez to be blended into this Palofino grapes, just kind of bulk up the alcohol percentage as well as build up some of that body. So it was always used as kind of a blending grape to the Palofino that was being used here. And honestly, this is my kind of a thing, my opinion. But the British probably played a huge role in it, because it was much easier for British to kind of, because of Port Town right here, right? Cadiz and Sanlúcar. It's much easier for them to ship these wines out of here and bring it back to Britain, as opposed to going all the way out to Montemorelos, which is in the middle of the mountain. So Jerez was the more of an economic center. So the wines around there to kind of develop much more of a demand, and just out of convenience and ease and cost, quite frankly. But really, the sherry that we know of it now, it really originated here in Montilla Moriles, which is pretty cool. And in my opinion, this is actually, I find Montilla Moriles to be a much interesting kind of a wine in terms of Jerez. This is like a lot more very traditional bound, very rigid. Things don't change much here. But things are starting to change quite a bit in Montilla Moriles, just because it has much looser kind of a jurisdiction or the regulation. So people are able to play around a little bit more and produce something a little bit different, which we will see example of next week, actually. So yeah. Another big difference is Tinaja, which is picture right here. Oh, by the way, I should also talk about this. The soil type is very similar, but a little bit different. So this is actually one of Alvear's vineyard. But the soil type that we saw in Jerez is the Albarita, right? Really calcareous, chalk-rich, really white soil. And those pictures that you guys saw, super white soil, right? Like it just looks like a white hills. But here it gets a little bit darker, but nonetheless, it still does have a lot of limestone and chalk running through. It has a very similar kind of properties as Alberta. So it is kind of white, so it bounces off the heat, stores the heat. It's very porous, so it holds on to water quite a bit. So during the rainy time, it takes in the wintertime when it rains, it basically holds on to all that water. And during the intense summer heat, even though the surface completely bakes and hardens, all that moisture is trapped underneath that hard surface, the baked surface, able to provide water for the vines to thrive. And it's the same kind of properties that the Albarita has, and the same thing. And here they call it Alvaro. It's a little bit darker. It's not as white as the Albarita, but it's nonetheless still very much a similar soil. This is actually the PX, Pedro Jimenez grapes. And as you can see, some of it is it has a little bit of a tinge. It's not as completely a white grape as a Palofino is. And then you see some examples of it raisin over here, which is how they make that really luscious dried raisin dessert wine. The Pedro Jimenez is the dry one. There you go. Anyway, so this is what I was talking about. So this is tinaja, or in the western part or other Georgia and other parts, we also call it amphora. So these are huge clay pots or clay jars. And this is a very traditional way of fermenting grapes here in Montemorelos. Now, if you go to Jerez, it's mostly all stainless steel. Everything has been modernized and everything is made in a huge, and also the volume-wise, so made in a huge stainless steel. And then it goes into American oak barrels for the Solera aging, the fractional blending system. But here in Montemorelos, it's still very much in commonplace from which all the wines are made in tinaja. So very traditional, these gigantic, like 5,000, these are like 5,000 to 10,000 liter jars. So enormous, but they're built directly into the ground like the ancient Romans used to do. Alvear still ferments all of its base wines in tinaja. So every single wine that Alvear makes is first starts off in one of these gigantic amphoras. This imparts nothing to the wine, perfectly neutral, maintains stable cool temperature through the thick clay walls. And then this is not like the craft, just thing. It's a 2,000-year basically technology and tradition that still is very much alive here in Montemorelos and particularly here in Alvear. But it's kind of like if you ever go to Douro in Portugal, those gigantic granite lagares, which is like the foot stomping kind of a bathtub looking things, and a lot of traditional houses still use those things. Port, same thing. Yeah, so it's just like it's that kind of traditional method that still goes on there. So quick primer, how Oloroso happens. Just want to talk about that because it's all about how it happens. But anyways, here's out there. There's inside. Once the base wine gets fermented here, it gets fortified with the spirits. Or if it's phenol, it doesn't because the alcohol is already high. And then enters a phenol solera, and then anything that goes into Oloroso, it gets fortified up to 17.5%, and then drops it to the solera system for Oloroso. So this is what inside of a better looks like. So yeah, quick little reminder from review from last week in the production method. So remember, so the sherry always starts off as base wine without fortification, right? You make the base wine. If you're in Jerez, you're starting off with Palomino Fino. If you're in Morelos, then you're starting off with Pedro Jimenez, all right? But everything else is the same. So those are the varietal difference depending on where you are. Now, what happens is first the wine is made in the tinaja or in a stainless steel, and then it usually gets up to like 11.5%, 12.5% in Jerez. So they actually put spirit in it, fortified up to about 14.5% to 15.5%, so right around there, if you're going to make fino. So, and then in Montemorelos, you don't have to fortify it because naturally PX gets up to that high. So you get up to that high, and then you sit it in a fino solera, which is the fractional blending system. And at that point, because of 14.5% to 15.5%, it develops layer floor, that yeast that grows, or the bale that grows on the surface of the wine. And then the rest of the wine is aged under that floor the whole time. So it's completely non-oxidative. It's called biological aging, right? So Fino, Manzanilla, all of Amontillado, they all start off biological aging under floor, right? And then the Fino and Manzanilla will finish under the floor the entire time. Amontillado, along the way, you identify certain barrels, either the floor will die off naturally, or they identify certain casks where it's getting much richer and much nuttier that they would like for Fino. So they pull those wines out, and they would actually fortify it even further up to 17.5 to kill off the floor, because floor doesn't survive beyond like 16.5%. So they've fortified even further to kill off floor, and then the rest of the time they age it oxidatively exposed to oxygen. So that's Amontillado. So we got Fino and Manzanilla, and then we got Amontillado. Now, Oloroso is the complete separate thing. So when it starts off, so you make the base wine, and then immediately you fortify it up to 17.5%. So floor never grows. So the entire, and then it goes into solar system and it ages. So the entire time that wine is aged completely oxidative, meaning it's completely exposed to oxygen. So I said this when when we're first starting out, starting this month, that like I'm calling this sherry box, but really, if you want to get geeky about it, this is a study of oxidation in wine. So first week to last week to this week, there's more and more exposure to oxygen as the wine has aged. So we're going to taste it this week, and we're going to talk about how this is different from the other. We're going to talk about how it's different from Fino. It's a subtle, but there's a distinctive difference when you taste it, because there's a lot darker notes that come in here. So what we're tasting today, Oloroso. Oloroso in Spanish means very like a perfume, very aromatic, but it also means oxidized. So it's completely oxidized. Oftentimes it's completely bone dry, especially when it comes here. So that's what. But I did wanted to show you this in a quick little video, because some of you had questions about how the Solera actually works. I think we talked about it, but how actually what it looks like. So I've shown this video last time when we did Alvear actually, but I want to show it again. Where
pensado para respetar la flor. Enséñale el tubo.
So everything's been thought out, all the utensils to respect the floor, so it's not broken.
El tubo está perforado en el extremo con el objeto de que cuando nosotros ahora lo introducirá Claudio,
so it's perforated,
y con el objeto de que cuando el vino de la escala superior fluya por aquí, por el embudo perforado, por el bastón perforado, lo haga de manera lenta. No forme turbulencia y no rompa el velo.
So they don't want the wine to quickly go into the barrel below. They want it to go in a steady way, not to shock the wine underneath it. So all of the utensils have been sort of modelled around the nature of the floor.
Esta es la canoa.
And that's called the canoe.
Sobre esto se va a vertir, o sea, la canoa va sobre el rociador.
So the canoe will fit on top of the
sobre la canoa se
instrument you saw before, and then that adds the wine to the next level.
So that's the canoe in place, ready to receive the wine. That's really cool. Yeah.
Okay. In the same way. Los otros años hemos tardado mucho con uno cuando es más fácil.
Este año más fácil todavía porque tiene el de flor.
Sí. Bueno, en cuanto encontramos 10 botas, nos movemos rápidamente. Porque si tomas 3 vinos y 1:30, entre las 11 y las 12:30,
12:30 después hasta la 1. Que nos preparen las muestras de 1, 2,
3. There you go. So, because you were wondering how it's done, I mean, it's unbelievable to me. There's still houses that do that completely manually like that. Like, imagine that gigantic warehouse with that many barrels and having to go through and pull from each level, blending into the next and blanking back. And that's pretty crazy. But anyways, that's how it's done. All right, let's talk about who makes this wine. Let's see. So Bodegas Alvear is actually Spain's oldest continuously operated family winery. It was founded in 1729 by Don Diego de Alvear y Escalera. It's the oldest winery in Andalusia, which is pretty crazy to think about because last week with Hidalgo, we're talking about the third oldest winery in Andalusia. So here's the oldest winery in Andalusia. So we're talking about two of the oldest wineries in all of Andalusia featuring this month's book. I didn't even think about it, honestly. And this is the oldest continuously family operated winery in all of Spain. So we're talking about very, very historical producer. They go back to the 16th century. They relocated to Montilla in the late 17th century, and Diego established the bodega 3 decades later. It is now run by the 8th generation of the same family, which are these two. So they're cousins. So there are about 50 family members that work in the business. So obviously I can show all 50, nor could I find pictures of all 50 of them. But these two are kind of at the head of. So one on the left is Maria Alvear, and then she oversees kind of the export of all. And then Fernando Jimenez Alvear, the guy on the right, is a kind of a general manager. He runs the entire show. So these two are the kind of top of the family, top executives of the family estate that dates back to 1729, which is pretty crazy. So today, Alvear farms 150 hectares of his own Pedro Jimenez vineyards in the Sierra de Montilla, and the Montilla Alto. Plus, we're working with the growers controlling additional 200 hectares. So we're talking about pretty sizable winery. We're talking about a total of 350 hectares that they work with. I mean, the grand spectrum of all things in wine, 350 hectares is nothing. I mean, I think Kendall Jackson alone owns multi-million hectares. But we here, for as far as the wines that we feature mostly here in 6 Wine Club, 350 is pretty big. So, but you know, having been in operations continuously since 1729, you would expect them to have gained some land and have expanded quite a bit. But all old head trained vines, so all bush trained vines, very traditional, no irrigation, all dry farm, sustainably without any chemical use in the field. So we're talking about completely, they are not certified organic, but they're pretty much practice organic, chemical-free farming in every aspect of their work. Yeah, so that's it. What is this wine? So this is 100% Pedro Jimenez grape that I mentioned earlier. It's harvest in August. It's the earliest harvest in all of Spain. I actually don't know that many places where they harvest in August. But you know, the heat here is so hot that it forces a kind of early ripeness at very high sugar level. The free run juice, which is the juice that comes without you pressing it, is fermented to around 15% naturally in those tinajas, the gigantic tinajas that you saw. After winter, the wine is classified. So at that point, the batch showed no tendency towards kind of biological floor aging and was selected for oxidate environment. So those are the one who's going to Oloroso. Then it is fortified to approximately 18% with the grape spirit that they make themselves, and then killing any residual yeast activity as well as killing floor, and then it's entered into the solar system, and then it ages oxidatively, completely exposed to oxygen the whole time for an average of 20 years. It's impossible in a solar system to get an exact number of years because there's always blending of the older wines and coming into the new ones, and they're all being blended. So what they say, the average age of all the wines that are in there from the very first year all the way to the very last solar that comes out is about 20 years. So who knows, you know, how old some of those old wines are. I guess at least 40 years, right? Because if you're first year and then you got 40 years, at least the middle has to be 20, but percentage is different. So, but anyways, the average is about 20 years. The name Caton I actually found some fascinating story actually about it, but it's a Marcus Porcius Cato or Cato. Cato the Elder, 234 to 149 BC. He was a Roman statesman, soldier, moralist, and the author of De Agricultura, the oldest surviving prose work in Latin, written around 160 BC. It is essentially an agricultural and winemaking manual from 160 BC, written in Latin. Cato was stationed in Hispania during the Second Punic War and documented the incredible agricultural productivity of southern Spain. He championed the region's vineyards. He was frantically or fanatically serious, relentlessly persistent, and deeply conservative, qualities also embodied by an Oloroso that has been in continuous production since 1729, unchanged in method for nearly 300 years. The name is not accidental, is what I found on the internet. So if this is continuous production since 1729, there's probably some wine here from that period. I would imagine if the Solera survived through all the wars and different things, but who knows? Anyways, that's what I got. Any questions about anything I just went over? About the production method, about Alvear, Monteamoriles?
Yeah, again, just this one now, they just let it ferment into 19% or 18% by itself, right? How do they stop?
Yeah, it's fortified. So it gets about to about like 14, 15, 14.5%. And then from there, they fortify it up to 18%.
And how do they stop it from that? How do they stop it continuously fermenting? That
It doesn't continue to ferment because once you add 18, get it up to 18%, basically everything dies. Like the yeast can survive, flour can survive. So basically all yeast activity has been killed off by adding the spirit. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Let's taste the wine. Let's take the appearance. Somebody.
I can.
Excellent.
I just had a sip, so. Is the grid up? Oh, there it is. Okay. It looks clear to me.
Yeah, it is very clear.
Intensity for a white, I would say, well, I guess I can't remember now if this is for all wines or if white's its own, but it's like medium plus for white.
Yeah, I would start going deep, but it does pick up some color for sure.
Yeah. Color, like I see a lot of amber.
Yeah, I'll go as far as brown here, and it's definitely beyond gold at this point.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. So yeah, we'll call this about medium amber.
And no bubbles.
Yep.
And no deposits.
Cocoa.
Yeah.
Perfect. You get to pick the next person for the news.
Somebody want to go? Phil's smiling a little, so maybe I'll pick Phil.
I feel like we gotta put Liz and Kayla at some point.
I did it last week, but I don't mind going.
I missed last week, so I don't know.
Okay, get a little closer here. This is clean. There's no fault to this at all.
Yeah, no fault. This one is clean. This one is sound.
And intensity. Oh, a medium plus to pronounced.
Yeah, I mean, like mine is.
Almost, I'd say more pronounced than medium plus.
Mine is like here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close pronounced. It's very expressive.
And
aromas. Ooh.
Okay. there is some sweetness to this. So some flower sweetness, I think, like a honeysuckle kind of, and so I not in the like last week's had some more rose smell. This is a little sweeter to me.
Yeah, I know. I do understand what you mean by like sweet, but like I don't see it as a floral thing. I see some honey note here. I see some
Honeysuckle.
like caramel toppy things like that. But yeah, maybe honeysuckle. But like there's like dry, dry flower here. Like, I mean, a lot of dry sensation in general. This is a
Yeah.
lot to do. Yeah, but like dry chamomile. Maybe if it's honeysuckle, maybe like dry flower. It's not like fresh flower to me.
No, no. Okay, no fresh flowers.
Yeah.
Grapefruit, I don't, I don't get anything that I'm recognizing unless it's some kind of uh, an apple smell, maybe. But
Yeah, I don't get much apple here, if anything. It's because I get like so much like toffee caramel kind of thing going
yeah,
on
it's
here.
hard to
Like,
get out of that.
yeah, maybe it's like caramel apple if you were to like force my hand on it. Uh, but yeah, not a whole lot of green fruit here. Any
Yeah.
citrus?
No citrus, no
Okay.
tropical fruit, no
No citrus though?
black. You
I get
get
a little bit of citrus here. I get like dried orange peels. Um, Like I don't know if you guys ever had like a dry citrus like potpourri kind of a thing. There's some of that reminds me.
Yeah,
Um,
I got more of that last week, the
yeah,
burnt orange, the dry orange, but
exactly. Exactly.
not as much as I do this week.
Yep.
This is this is more secondary, I think.
Yep.
And no red or black fruit.
You're getting it all right. That's exactly what we're going to talk about. Because we're not going to talk what, yeah, how we Oloroso. We're moving so much away from the kind of primary. Like we haven't really had wines where we haven't really talked much about primary. We're going to talk so much about secondary and tertiary when we get there. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so you're totally right. You got more of that last week. It makes sense because it started off as a Fino and then finishes a Oloroso to kind of split both of the world. So you get a little bit of freshness. But here, because it's Oloroso, we're moving so much more into just dry. There's no like fresh fruit really here. Everything is really
No.
dry and whatnot.
And as far as I thought I might get some fig, but I don't. It doesn't. It doesn't connect actually. But in the what do we?
Yeah, I get a little bit of like this like a raisin, dried golden raisin, little
Oh yeah,
sultana.
there's a a yellow raisin smell.
Exactly. Yeah. So in case you're ever wondering what sultana is, it's essentially what the British call dried golden raisin, yellow raisin.
Mm.
So I get some of that. Any herbaceous herbals, spice.
No, I don't.
I do get a little bit of minerality here. I get a little bit of like a crushed rock kind of a thing. A little like clay, like something minerally, but like a dirt or
Yeah,
earthy.
like a dirt. They're not a wet dirt, not but
Yeah, yeah. I get some of that. But yeah, not much of all of that. All right, let's get to secondary. What you got on the secondary?
we are there is some kind of a smell to this.
Agreed. I
Yeah.
guess some.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, this is not necessarily coming from the toast of the oak because we're talking about new oak here, and there's
mm.
really no sign of new oak for me. But I do agree with you. And this toast that you're talking about is probably more of this toast down here.
Oh yeah, maybe more of that toast.
Yeah,
I get a nutty flavor.
yeah. It's
And
not like the bourbon barrel, like the freshly charred barrel. Like I don't get that char here, but I
no,
guess I know exactly what you mean. That kind of like warm, toasty kind of a vibe. And then it's more here. So let's get to the tertiary. We go on the tertiary.
where are we? Tertiary. Yeah, I get a hazelnut again,
Totally.
like I did last week. More, maybe a walnut.
Yep. 100%. So
And
much more
and
walnut,
this
so much
coffee
more
and the
hazelnut.
coffee toffee.
Yep. exactly. That caramel,
there for sure.
coffee. We didn't really get to this end of it last week, right? Like this much darker
No,
kind of a
not,
side.
but now we do. I mean,
Exactly. But now this week we're getting into that coffee, toffee, caramel kind of a route. Anything else?
yeah, I mean, I really smell the soy sauce in this one.
Yep. Yes.
Much stronger than I did last week when you were talking
Yep.
about it.
Yep. I'm gonna spread this. Sherry has a lot of that like soy sauce, sake, umami thing going through. Like I smell it every time, especially with these amontillado olorosos. It's like the oxidative ones.
Mhm.
But obviously it's not on the grid because these are written by British people, so not by
Yeah.
Koreans. Um, but yeah, that ton of that umami, some of that soy sauce. But like to me, some of this kind of prune, dried raisins kind of thing running through here.
Right. Yeah, in that prune fig dried out.
Yeah. I also get some of this like the honey, kind of like touch of this like a mushroomy, which just can be like that umami kind of a thing, similar thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess some of that kind of earthy umami kind of a thing. Excellent.
And okay, and I
So
didn't get any acetate or any of that smell.
no, yeah, no VA, very, very stable. I mean, also with this much alcohol spirit being added this early in the process, it's gonna be you're rarely gonna find sherry that's like peaking in VA or
Mhm.
even Brent, because those things just get killed off with all that alcohol fortification. And that's, honestly, part of the reason why fortification began in the first place, right? To help these sailors or wines say survive the voyage on the ocean. So it doesn't go bad. They just put a bunch of fucking brandy in it, jack up the alcohol percentage. So like, oh, we survived the trip. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and probably to reduce the portions they had to serve, right? To the
And,
sailors.
and I mean, Thomas Jefferson is known to drink a pint of Madeira a day. So
Yeah.
it used to be very popular. Uh, cool. I just wanted to also point out, like I mentioned, it has been, I don't know, ever we've had a wine that this oxidative, that what we mostly talked about was right here in the tertiary, right? Like, yes, we talked about a little bit of floral, a little bit of dry, like sultana and things, but like really nothing, maybe some orange peels, but nothing really in the primary or
Right.
really in the tertiary. So for those of you who are thinking about like what the wine's aging evolution looks like, this is what happens, right? Like most of the wines that we taste are we're pretty much all here. Like this is very primary driven, this is very fresh, right? But now, for the first time, we're really mostly right here, right? So this is what happens. All that fresh kind of things that we talk about normally, they all switch to this kind of coffee, toffee, nuts, dry fruit, non-fruit things like mushroom, hay. I mean, earlier I was saying like there's some dried kind of like a flour thing. Maybe like to me, it could be hay. Like there's a lot of savory notes here, including the umami, mushroom, hay, all of that, and it's all part of this. Excellent.
Okay.
Let's get to the palate. You get to pick the next person. We all know where that's going.
Liz, you want to jump in, or you guys ready?
We're ready.
Palate.
Well, is there any way for you to zoom in a bit? I for some reason, the way that you have it today, I can't make it do it myself. Okay, thank you.
Or it's our login capabilities. We don't know.
I don't know. Maybe
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Well, this wine is dry.
Yes.
And the acidity is medium plus high. I'm actually it would be interested in like what you would say on that. Like I had a gleek with it, so I know some.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm gonna call this a medium plus as well. And this is why this area, Montemor, in particular Alvear, is why prized, right? You're talking about a grape that can naturally get up to 15, 16%, right? Yet it naturally has this much, it's able to retain
acidity. It's crazy.
Because it gets full. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where would you go on tannin for this?
We don't have to. I mean, for all the intents and purposes of sherry, we don't need to talk about tannin. If you do
don't.
get a bit of friction,
I do actually. I was gonna say I feel it in my gum.
yeah, it's a little bit from the wood tannin that potentially comes from all that barrel aging that happens, but like the tannin is not why it's not something that sherry is trying to focus on, because as soon as the grapes come in, they press it off the skins and they're spending time on the skins. So if anything is there, is from the barrels. So wow. Great. Alcohol
for a fortified wine.
Trying to guess the percentage.
We already looked. So
we looked.
We were.
So I won't try to look smart, but I missed the earlier part of the month. So tell me, where does 19 fit in the world?
Yeah. So exactly. So with the alcohol, with the regular dry still wine, we're talking about medium being like 12.5 to 13.5, right? High being like 15 and above.
Yeah.
15 and above is essentially where fortified wine starts as low.
Got it.
So Fino and Manzanilla, those all have to start right on where the floor starts, which is right around 15.5 to 16.5%. So 15.5 to 16.5% is as low as a fortified wine gets, right? And then in order to get to medium, which is amontillado, to kill off the floor to get to the oxidative aging, you can get it up to at least like 16.5 to 17.5%. So now we're talking about right around there in the medium. And then high, I mean, there's some alcohol percentages that go up even higher. So it gets into like 21, 22% with some of the port and stuff. So with the low, I would say we're talking about like 14.5 to like 16, right? 16 to like 18 to 19, somewhere around there, up to like medium. So 18 and 19 would be like medium plus, like high is like 19, 20 and up is essentially high. So this is like right at that between medium and high, like medium plus in terms of fortified wine.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay, that's helpful. Later, I want to ask, like this combination of high alcohol and high acidity, like where else does that exist in these types of wines? Because I've tried ports, I've drank the Georgian sweet wines. Like I'm like really struggling to sort of think of something that's done that's like this, and it feels unique. So you don't have to answer that question now, but my mind.
No, I'll do it now because this is actually a really good thing to, especially when we're talking about fortified wine alcohol. So one of the things that if you're blind tasting, especially for WCT, you take a unit. There's a whole unit dedicated to fortified wines and sparkling wines. And in the fortified wines, when you taste, you're essentially trying to distinguish between port. Are you tasting port? Are you tasting sherry? Or are you tasting Madeira? And especially if they put Oloroso sherry and Madeira, which is also fully oxidized.
Yeah.
Really old tawny, which can be also very oxidative. If you put all those three, how would you be able to tell it apart? Right? And one of the things that I was taught, and it's true after having tasted a lot of them, Madeira always has the highest acidity out of those three. Madeira will clock in at medium plus to very high acid. Sherry and port, just naturally because the grapes that they use, it just doesn't get up that high. So the first thing is acidity.
Madeira is Sicily, right?
Madeira is Madeira. From the island of Madeira. It's a Portuguese island.
Oh, okay.
Off the coast of North Africa. It's closer to North Africa than it is to Portugal. But it is a completely oxidized wine.
Okay.
In fact, they also use a process called estufagem, which is they put the barrels up on the attics of the warehouses where they actually cook. So it's not only oxidized, but it's fully cooked. So when you get a bottle of Madeira, it's fucking indestructible, already been destroyed. So, like for example, Oloroso sherry, even though it is oxidized, it will continue to oxidize more. You can put this in the fridge and you can drink this over next month, maybe 2 months even, and it's going to change a lot less than phenol sherry or manzanilla or even amontillado would because it's already oxidized. But it will oxidize further because this hasn't gone through that dramatic temperature change. But Madeira, because it's completely cooked essentially, it will never change. Like you can get a bottle of Madeira now, open it, come back to a year later, and it'll taste the same because it's exactly the same. Maybe it will lose some concentration because it's just been open for a long time, but like it doesn't change in terms of like the flavor profile doesn't change. The concentration may go down. But to answer your question, where else do we find really high acid, high alcohol? Madeira is one of them.
Right.
And Madeira is not always all sweet. Some of there are sweet ones on the top, but also Serchal, Madeira Serchal is bone dry. So we can also do that as well. Which is imagine bone dry, unaged. I mean, it is aged, but it's bone dry, fully oxidized Madeira. Yeah. Anyways.
Oh.
I'll have to try that.
Okay. Do I go there or is my next island vacation?
Madeira, also I've never been there. I'm dying to go. Supposedly it's gorgeous. It's rugged as fuck.
Yeah,
the flight going in there is one of the craziest flight ever because you have to basically drop in. So you're flying in and also just drop into the airfield and you have to get in. But anyways,
that's fine. Okay, body.
Body.
What do you say about this? I don't know. It feels very ligera to me. Like feels very light. I don't know. But I've been out of the game for a bit, so the scientist that I am not says that if the alcohol is so high, it can't be so thick. But I don't know from the viscosity.
Exactly. No, I mean it can be so thick. Like to me, when you have this much alcohol and grape that's naturally this high in sugar, it can't be light. It can't be a light-bodied wine. So to me, this is at least medium plus. There's some weight here. If you move it around, maybe I'm going to medium plus. Maybe medium. There's some weight. Yeah, we're about 2% here. Moose, we don't have to talk about flavor intensity.
It stays, I'd say, medium plus. I'd argue.
I'm gonna go pronounced here. I mean the
really?
Flavor here, it is. Everything here is nothing about this is not intense.
Yeah.
Nothing is subtle here. Subtlety is not Sherry's forte here. It is very, very expressive. Whatever whether you like it or not, that's one thing. But I don't think
flavor intensity how long it lasts in your mouth?
That's the finish.
Oh, that's the finish. Okay, sorry. Flavor intensity is pronounced. Okay.
How intensely is flavor?
Okay.
To me, this is if you ever have a bourbon whiskey drinking grandfather or father or somebody who's like, I don't drink wine. I only drink whiskey. To me, Oloroso is the way to get them started. This is a good kind of bridgeway wine because you can sip this. It's high in alcohol. Also, all these sherry casks that are done being used, they all get sold to bourbon and whiskey industries. Scotch industry is all sherry cask finished. There's a very big similarity between the two. And to me, there's this huge kind of overlap between this and whiskey drinkers. This is as close to whiskey like a wine is going to get. Is what I would say.
For sure.
All right. Do you confirm everything that your dad said? Is there anything else that pops up?
Yeah. I was very impressed when he texted me that he thought it smelled and tasted like soy sauce, and I thought, wow, that's so good. And then I realized that he picked that up from last week. But anything in the primaries that stood out to you? In the taste, I think that was a helpful conversation the two of you had about flowers, though, because I also tasted flowers, but I agree that it's chamomile, it's dried chamomile, not floral. And so that was a helpful reminder that you push some of those dried flowers down the grid, not there, even though I That was a really good call. The chamomile smell. It's not chamomile flower, it's chamomile tea.
Yeah, more that herbal over herbaceous for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some. I also get a little bit like black tea. There's some like a tea component to this thing. There's a lot of savory note here. It's not just all the fruit and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, we call that a bunch of fruit sweetness, honey, and all of that. But there's some of that like mushrooms, soy sauce, umami, tea, black tea. Some of that been going on here.
But none of that is like fresh, right? That's all like
None
a
of that.
little bit, yeah.
Exactly. To me, this wine lives right here.
It's so weird for me that like the honey is coming from the acidity. Like it's that, like honey is technically an acid and it just like that's what's triggering that both scent and flavor to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when wine ages. As most people we don't get to taste wines that are this old. You know what I mean? Like even the wines that we age, we don't ever let it get to this oxidative stage. Like if we're drinking just dry, still wines, I would honestly, if I tasted just a regular dry wine, white wine, who got to this stage, I would say this wine is too tired. It's past its prime. It's lost all of its freshness here. But because this is exactly what it's meant to be, this is all about oxidative, kind of like the oxidative aging of it all. Like we're all right here, premature tertiary. I mean, there's some left here. Like I do get the orange peel, like that chamomile that you were talking about. But again, it's not fresh. It's all dried. It's a lot of like a desiccation that happened here.
I also, looking at this now with the like charred wood stands out to me in the palate here a little. Like I get like this the burnt flavor. But I don't know.
I mean, so we were, your dad and I we were talking about this idea of toast, right? This oak toast versus bottle aged toast. And to me, they're different. Like this toast is like, to me, it's like bourbon. Like if you ever tasted bourbon that comes from the freshly charred American oak, it's like that vanilla-y, a lot of vanilla in it, and it's like actually like burnt wood flavor that's in there. Like this is not that. This is to me more of actually like toasted bread toast. There's something toasty, warm, savory, not necessarily like burnt wood.
A little like not yeasty, but kind of like that. Yeah.
This is much closer to actual toast, not like a charred.
No, you're right. But but something is burned. It's great. It's really great.
Yeah. And to me, this is all about this nut is everything. Like hazelnut, walnut.
Yeah.
Caramel. It's just
I was saying I don't think I've ever tried a wine that gave me hazelnut. That's incredible, that call earlier.
Well, and deliberate oxidation, I would say that's what we got.
Yep. And then there's definitely like also there's a little bit of solidity, and then maybe that soy sauce comes from. There's like the salted caramel, salted toffee, like some of that. There's some solidity here, which
for sure. That's the savoriness. Yeah.
Finally, the length. How long is the finish?
I'd say medium plus. Like I think it's there, but it doesn't. I mean,
no, I think this is beyond long. Like
you think beyond long?
Yeah, I mean, this thing finish just goes on and on. Like I'm still tasting.
Yeah.
Like if I look back on it, there's like nuts. There's just like hazelnut, walnuts, everything.
Yeah. That's a good call. I just haven't had anything like that. That's pretty crazy.
This is crazy. I'm gonna call this long. All right. So bring it home for us. How good is this wine? And we're not going to talk about like aging because we're, with sherry, we're basically it's already been aged and speaking with this one.
It's been aged.
But how good is this wine?
Well, oh gosh, remind me how we go through it. So it's we said that
all right, I'll walk you through.
Nose was pronounced medium plus. And then the flavor was medium plus, the nose was medium plus. Sight, I'm out of practice. Sorry.
I'll walk you through. Do you think this wine is balanced?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly balanced. It does feel a little hot, right? I mean, it is 19% after all, but like to me, it's not blocking me from tasting other things, right?
Yeah.
So I said this wine is very balanced. Concentration, we call pronounce on the nose, pronounce on the palate, right? Complexity, I mean, we talked about some primary stuff, some dry flowers, some dried orange peels, some minerality, some dry sultana. We talked about a little bit of well, this is not the secondary, but really mostly on tertiary. We got that deliberate oxidation. We got the nuts. We got the toffee caramel coffee. We got the honey. We got the mushrooms. So we got pretty much primary, tertiary, bunch of the things in each one. So quite complex. There's a lot of different things going on here, right? So high complexity. And then the length, we called it
long.
Yeah. So where do we end up?
Very good wine.
Huge.
Not only that, I think this is an outstanding wine, right?
Yeah.
This is it's at the very end of scale of everything. And this is the first month. I don't know if you guys remember. I mean, you enjoyed the first 2 weeks, but for all 3 wines that we called this month have all been outstanding.
Yeah.
And this is what, again, I know that there are people who do not care for sherry, and I get that. That's totally fine. That's their preference. But at least according to how we measure the quality of wine, according to the system, every single one of them has been outstanding. And this is what I mean by sherry is one of the best bang for your buck that you're going to get out in the wine world. It's most underrated, most undervalued wine that you're going to find because you get all this complexity, wines with all this aging. I mean, some of the wines in this, again, it's a fractional blending, but some wines go back decades, and then you get some of that in the wine. And all of that and you guys have all been surprised by the price of all these wines each week. And this is why sherry, in my opinion, is one of the greatest wines that exists out there right now. Hopefully, the math doesn't catch up to sherry and the price doesn't skyrocket anymore, but that's why we should all drink more.
Well,
cool.
I'm excited for us to talk about pairings for this because we ended up making dinner before because I was sort of skeptical about the ability to pair a wine like this with food. I don't
like braised meats, so I ruined it. But
but now that I'm drinking this, I'm like, this could cut through some fat.
Exactly.
But how is it possible that I'm as old as I am, eaten in the places that I've eaten, been the places that I've been, and I've never had anybody be like, let's have sherry as our pairing for this meal. Like that feels like not unintentional. That makes sense. So that's why I was like, we'll just have some old cheese and as dessert.
I mean, in America, unless you go to a Spanish restaurant, like nobody really cares sherry. Sherry in America is mostly used at a cocktail bar more than anything else.
Yeah. Yes, that's how I think about it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to me, sherry is cocktail in a glass. Like everything is already there. Like you don't even need to mix anything in there. Like I said, like this is like the whiskey drinker's wine. But yeah, to your point, it is one of the most, in terms of food pairing, most fun, versatile wines to play with because it's got that acid, but it's got the body to play with. It's got that nutty kind of oxidative thing if you want to go to Oloroso route, but if you can also go to Fino route, you can do an entire dinner from aperitif to dessert. And also, we haven't even covered sweet sherry, this month. It's like you can do the entire dinner from first course to the last course just using sherry.
Wow. I know.
And nobody talks about it. Like this is why it drives me crazy that nobody talks. Like 4 to 5 wines in America is just like, I mean, globally speaking too, the demand has gone down quite a bit, but it's just so hard to get people's mind around sherry because it's like such a foreign thing. It's like so new and different, and people are just not, can't wrap their minds. There's no reference point around it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's taken my palate longer to get into it and accustomed to drinking it, if that makes sense? Like versus a glass of wine, it takes a couple of sips and you start to ease in. This took a bit.
That's
To
true.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
to
mean, part of
Liz,
that's because it's so big. Yeah.
agree. And to Liz's point, and because that's how it happened for me as well. Like first a few times I had sherry, it was very much of a like an intellectual thing, right?
Mhm.
Because as a wine nerd, I tasted it, I'm like, holy fuck, like how can wine taste like this? Like how do they make this? Like how does this happen, right? So it was like I was intellectually intrigued. It wasn't until I went to Spain and then had their food and the sherry together, and that's when it all clicked. I'm like, this makes sense. Now I get it. Like so. To Liz's point, I think, and to your point, Kayla, to help Americans build more reference point. And this is what I've been saying this whole month. More than any other month, I say this every month, but more than any other month, if these wines don't resonate with you, please drink it with food. Like you gotta have food. Like that's when this.
Oh, it's so much better with the cheese.
Yeah.
It
This
needed the cheese.
36-month Gouda is excellent with this. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Like it's that's when everything clicks. You're like, I get it. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, this is like braised oxtail meat. Perfect.
Yeah.
Grilled chicken. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then we started out with manzanilla, where we're talking about like the Hilda, we're talking about olives, anchovies, nut, like something really simple and briny. So we've kind of gone through the gamut from.
Is that what you drink with that you eat with the first one, Hilda's?
Yeah. Yeah. So anything briny, salty, pickled, things like that.
All right,
Anchovies.
Okay. I can assemble this.
Anchovy pasta.
Yeah. Cool. Clearly,
Would you add sherry to any soup or anything like that? This kind of
absolutely. Yeah, the sherry soup is it's like deglazing liquid. It's also awesome.
Isn't sherry with it?
Because it's got that kind of nutty, deep flavor as well. And again, a lot of that umami as well. Adds a little bit of punch of acidity in cooking as well. Yeah. Soup, any kind of braising liquid. Yeah, absolutely. And I said this, like a lot of sherry is being used in cocktails, but any cocktail with the sherry is fucking delicious. Sherry just makes all the cocktails taste delicious, if you ask me. All right, so besides Liz and Kayla, did you guys like this one? Did anybody not like this one? Just out of curiosity.
I did not love this one. I liked last week a lot more.
Okay. Yeah.
This was my favorite so far, but I still don't feel that I love sherry, and I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings.
No, not at all.
I feel like it hurts your feelings just a little bit.
I mean, I can only show you the light, Allison, but I can't have you walk through that light. That's what you know what I mean?
I'm trying. I couldn't find aged Manchego or aged Gouda, so I got aged cheddar, and I don't think it was quite the right thing.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, next time you get some like really really old aged cheese that has like salt crystals.
Yeah, I know. I was hoping to get that. Sometimes cheddar gets that.
Sometimes, yeah.
But this one wasn't quite, I don't know. It wasn't the right thing.
Yeah.
I'll try again. Anyway,
Cool.
I did think this was definitely my favorite of the bunch.
Cool. Well, now we can also talk about what oxidation tastes like. Like this is what oxidation tastes like. This nuttiness, when I always say like this wine tastes a little oxidated or oxidated. This is what I'm talking about when I get this kind of nutty, hazelnutty type of thing. Cool. Let's play
one more question.
Yeah.
Would it get a pool toy flavor later? I mean, isn't that what happens with oxidated wine? Where it gets the plasticky.
No, so we talk a lot about that plastic kind of smell. So there are two things that I usually get: that new plastic pool toy, or as David Corliss said, new dildo smell, which is the kind of like the one is Riesling. There's certain grape varieties, particularly Riesling, that has this chemical compound. They're naturally rich in chemical compound called TDN. I'm not going to try to tell you what it's a very scientific name. It's a TDN, And when those things age, and then or the wines that are rich in that, they usually express themselves as that kind of like pool toy, plasticky kind of smell. So very young Riesling oftentimes has that kind of plasticky smell. Another thing would be also the botrytis, which is a noble rot that rots the grape berries, so it shrivels, and so all the water evaporates, and so all the sugar gets concentrated. So Sauterne is an example, Tokai, all these great dessert wines of the world that are affected by botrytis. Chenin, some of the Chenin in Loire Valley gets that. Young botrytized wines without further bottle aging can often give off that kind of new plasticky smell. So those are the two kind of times when I get like the plastic smell in wine. But it's not necessarily oxidation. So oxidation, when the wine is oxidized or aged oxidatively, it gets this. There are two things that really happen. One is the color. So this started off as a completely translucent white wine, and then now it's this color. And all of that is just because of aging and oxidation, right? And then two, the flavor changes from, you get a lot of that nutty hazelnut that you were talking about, hazelnut, walnut, all of that comes from oxidation. Any other questions? Cool. Well, hopefully that you guys saw this kind of a trend, progression from the first week to here, and that was kind of my attempt. And I said this last week, I thought about maybe changing the order. So we do Manzanilla, which is Fino, and then Oloroso second, and then do Amontillado third. But I ended up putting Amontillado in the middle. But hopefully, because again, this is 30 oxidation, I want to see it in the progression. So hopefully you see how it changes. Like even just our tasting notes to what Phil was saying, like he was getting a lot more orange peels last week, but you get less of that. And he gets more nuts, and then now he gets coffee, toffee, caramel. And that's exactly what happens. That's what happens when the wine is goes through Oloroso Solera versus a Fino Solera. So, cool. Let's play everybody's favorite game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? The oldest continuously running winery in all of Spain, definitely old in Andalusia, average 20 years old. It's a half bottle. How much do you think this would be? We call that outstanding. 35, 30, 30, 33, 32, 24, 35. All right, here we go. This wine on the retail shelf will be 29 bucks. So that's what I'm saying. Yes, it's a half bottle, 29 for a half bottle. So which means this would be like 58 bucks for a full bottle. But for everything that we've been tasting so far, everything has been outstanding. This is the most deep, yet it's still under 30 bucks. Like the value in sherry is real. Just saying. If you don't like it, I get it. Sorry, Allison, but once you get hooked on, I mean, this is why people get hooked on sherry and they become like lifelong fanatics. So, anyways, there it is. Any questions?
I missed the intro. What kind of glasses do you serve this in? Sorry, if the first day you talked about these, did you talk about this?
Just regular, like AP, just regular white
what do
wine
you
glasses.
fill it to? Do you fill it to the same level you would a white wine, which is like
So
here at the base?
normally the portion size gets smaller, so it's usually about 2 to 3 ounces, so like half a glass.
Half of it. Okay.
Traditionally, the sherries are poured in a much smaller glass called copita, like the tasting glass that I had at Wine Pro. The smaller glass.
Yeah.
So those are poured in those glasses, but not everybody has those at home. So these kind of glasses, as long as it has this shape, totally fine. Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as a portion goes, I mean, you can pour yourself as much as you want, but
well, I mean, if Thomas Jefferson did,
that's what I'm saying.
250th anniversary.
So just as a preview for those of you, and hopefully, I'm pretty excited about next week's wine. So next week's wine is actually not a sherry, because one, it comes from Montilla. It's another Alvear, so it comes from Montilla, but it's also not a fortified wine. It is a dry still wine from that region. It just goes through under the floor for just a second, but it never enters Solera. So this is a wine that we featured in the past, but I feel like there was no reference point for this wine because we haven't done sherry. A lot of people didn't understand sherry, so this was like this kind of weird wine. I love the wine, but yeah, so I'm hoping that maybe now that we've done a bit of a deep dive on sherry, but it's really we're scratching the surface of sherry, but at least gotten the basic foundational knowledge around sherry. I'm hoping that people can wrap their mind around this wine better and understand why this is such a cool thing. So we'll finish this month's box with a not sherry but sherry light kind of wine. So, but that's delicious. All right, any questions? Was there any fan favorite between the first 3 weeks? Allison, you said this is your favorite. Sam or Annie, you guys said the last week was the favorite.
That was me. Last week was my favorite. I think Annie might prefer this week though, babe.
I'm undecided. I'm still mulling it over.
Okay.
All right. Phil, you like this week's?
Yeah, I did. Although I didn't have any trouble finishing the bottle last week.
We liked this week the best.
Yeah? Okay.
I now have 3 bottles of sherry in my fridge.
Amazing.
I look like quite a lush because I have 3 bottles of sherry and my dog is barking. Maybe I should go check on her. Anyway, and like multiple vermouths as well.
Amazing. It's as if you just came back from Spain or something. Cecilia, do you have a favorite?
I'm behind. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is the second one I've had, and I like this one a lot more than the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting enough, it seems unanimously that the first week was the least favorite.
I didn't love that one.
Interesting.
This one I like a lot.
Yeah, maybe none of you are Fino fans, or maybe just not that one. It is also a much heavier, darker Fino than, like I said, I think it was one that was probably in any other circumstance it would have been an Amontillado, but they ended up releasing this Fino. Cool. Any other questions about anything about this week or past 2 weeks or anything about sherry or? So I have this theory or hunch that, and I haven't tested this, but I have a feeling that because that umami soy sauce kind of a thing, I have a feeling sherry is going to be fantastic with a lot of like soy braised, like an Asian, like a sake and soy braised, like Japanese dishes. But I haven't tried it.
I was so ready to do egg drop soup last Wednesday. Just for the record, I was.
Yes.
Did anybody do that? Curious.
Yeah.
Did anybody? No. Okay. Well, we will. One of the pairings that he suggested for the wine last week were like traditional, and then he's like, I think this could go with egg drop soup, and I was like, I could do egg drop soup. But then you move the day, which I'm so happy the dog is okay. And I loved your email. It made me laugh, cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we eat Chinese takeout, but I don't eat meat, so no egg drop soup, unfortunately.
Oh, wait. There's no meat in it. Well, I guess a chicken stock.
Yeah, there's chicken stock.
I don't know. I have a feeling. I haven't tested it.
I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, I love egg drop soup. You just like tell me I have to have it and I would have it. So
you have to make it with a good veggie stock if you eat eggs because it's such a good.
I've never tried that, but I should.
So it's so easy. You literally just scramble the egg and stir it in. It's little sesame oil. You got it.
Again, also sesame oil and with this thing, I think it will work just fine because of all that nuttiness as well. Deep.
Sesame oil for sure. Yeah.
As an Asian person, I think my mom was onto something. When I told you guys the story, the whole soy sauce thing is because my mom, like when she first smelled sherry, the Oloroso sherry, she's like, "This is soy sauce. It smells like soy sauce in a glass." I'm like, "What are you talking about, mom?" And then ever since then, it's like, "God damn it, mom, it's soy sauce. It's soy sauce."
She called it. It's true though.
She called it.
That's good. That's good. That's a good.
Like I said, the grid, it's very limiting.
Yeah.
So, cool. Well, if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to stop the recording.